Um, Thank you. Our first topic today for our discussion is Make My Move. Ryan Pike is here from Make My Move. He's kind of our liaison for Make My Move. So for those of you who don't know, Make My Move is, I consider it an economic development program. And it's a little bit of a non-traditional economic development program. We're more familiar with typical things like tax abatements, personal property tax abatements, job training. Those are kind of the more traditional versions of economic development. But Make My Move is a program to try to attract remote jobs out of the state of Indiana into Indiana. And so we started this program last year. So we're just concluding our first year of the program. And so I believe this is a really good program. And I'd like us to move forward with the second year. Ryan will walk you through some of our statistics. We didn't quite fill the 10 jobs we had hoped to do. We're getting close, but we're not quite there yet. So I'm going to let Ryan kind of walk you through what we've done, tell you a little bit about what we've learned through the process, and then talk to you guys about what if we decided we want to move forward for another year, what that would look like. The one other thing I wanted to mention on the economic development side, as you guys know, Senate Enrolled Act 1 has changed a lot. So I even think these kind of programs are going to become even more important because our focus is going to shift from assessed value to income. And so bringing high-paying jobs and bringing those kind of people to our community is going to become even more important. So just wanted to emphasize that as well. Ryan, I'll turn it over to you.
There we go. I was going to say, I assume I don't have to hold this down, which is nice. I appreciate all of you having me out here. I think probably the only thing that looks a little different is Greg and Dawn. Did you guys swapped? So you swapped spots, it looks like, on the council?
I lost the coin toss.
Oh, hey, it's 6 one way, half a dozen the other, right? Well, if it's all right with you guys, I know time is of the essence, and I'll be short and quick and to the point and give you all enough time to ask any questions that you may have. But just to give you kind of a quick snapshot or preview on how things worked out last year. Oops, I might have gone too far. Let me see if. So if we look back at last year, we essentially, the town of Avon signed up to run a 10 household campaign as a partnership with Make My Move, and then 2 on the premise that we had one-to-one matching funds from the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. We came up with great results. They're not the results we hoped for. So I just want to make sure we get that elephant in the room right out of the gate. We did not get 10 households. We got 5 households, which is pretty good. It's not what we aimed for, but that's pretty good. And we do find more often than not that this can be the case in a lot of communities that we partner with in year 1. And it gives us time to sort of self-reflect. And when I say self, not just me, but myself, Ryan, Suzanne, our team at Make My Move, we kind of come together, put our heads together. We look back at everything and we say, all right, we thought 10 was the magic number. Were we wrong? Is there anything we could have done different? And so I'll get to that point in a quick minute, because I just want to run through the highlights of what year 1 looked like, give you an update on state funding and where we're at with that. And then the third thing, we'll talk about kind of the way forward. Then I'll leave some room for questions and get out of your hair. So the nice thing with those 5 households that we brought, they brought an annual economic output was generated of $223.8 thousand, right? So $223,800. And so with the dollars that have been invested to date, because we've only moved 5 and not 10, there's been $53,000.1 dollars invested to date. So theoretically, if you do the math and division, for every dollar that's been invested, right now we've had with the town of Avon, $4.21 were generated in year 1 alone. Obviously, as those 5 households continue to stay It's kind of like compounded interest, right? And that'll just keep going up and up and up and up and up. And then from just a total new annual state and local revenue perspective with respect to taxes, we brought in $30,600. So again, we didn't get 10 households, we got 5. The return on the investment is positive, which is obviously a good thing. And if we look to where the pipeline currently is, and this gives you just a little bit of an idea. I've got a screenshot of our economic impact dashboard. The numbers are a little different. In the top left, it says 254.9 thousand in the economic impact up there. I used the number on the in the graph where the dark green meets the light green, and that's where I actually got sort of the real-time version of 223.8. But this at least just gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the services that we provide, Ryan and Suzanne, with respect to the mover suite, the back end, all that good stuff. And then the pipeline right now is pretty healthy, right? So we're 5 new households moved, 9 total people, and we've got 2 committed movers, and we've got 4 offers out there as well. So that's obviously a good thing, because it just shows that, hey, even though we hit the timing, there's still people that are interested in moving to the town of Avon. I've got some mover testimonial. I'm not going to go through all these just because I want you guys to be able to sift through and read through some of this stuff on yourself, on your own time. I do think the Avon versus comparable communities is interested, because you can kind of see what your percentage is with respect to comparable communities. We get them. I think the story this essentially tells is that there's a lot of people applying, and then we make the offers, right? And then it just sort of tails off from accepted and moved, which is to be expected. You're not going to move every single household that you offer. But as we look at that was sort of collectively as a group at Make My Move, we sat down and we said, okay, what are some things that we could do different? What have we done different with other communities in year 2? And how could we incorporate those things with Avon as we move forward in year 2? So, and then lastly, this just gives you another screenshot on the back end with kind of with where the pipeline is. If you think about it, we've got 21 active applicants. 8 of them are late stage, so that's offered or accepted. All time since we've been running this, the town of Avon's received 443 total applicants. And so the late stage applicants represent a new annual economic impact of $448,000, and they come with an average household income of $94,000 across 6 different states. So that's the presentation that I have for you. The update with state funding, we did get approval to do another grant with the IDC, and so which is pretty exciting. It's pretty big news. We were pretty thrilled. I mean, if you think about, just looking back on the session this past year, I don't think there were a lot of groups or organizations that walked away with funding from the state. So that's good news. And we had, truthfully, the program sort of had expired, I guess you could say. I want to say probably March 31st, right? We started April 1st of last year. If it commenced April 1st, technically expired March 31st, but we kept working for the town of Avon at no cost, just because we had all these things going on, right? We didn't know if we were going to get state funding. There were just some things that were up in the air that were kind of out of our control. And we didn't really want to come present to you all until we knew, everything down to the T of what next year could potentially look like. So as we jump into next year, a couple of thoughts that Ryan, Suzanne, and myself and my team kind of came together on. We looked, first and foremost, we looked at the current incentive, right? And we had to do this with several other communities. So overall, we had a $5,000 cash relocation incentive. We had a 1-year Family Murphy Aquatic Center membership, coffee with the town manager and councilman, And then we had a wellness allowance at the Hendricks YMCA. All good things. The total value was less than $6,000. And so as we started thinking to ourselves, we were like, gosh, how do we get that total value increased? There's two different ways. One is we can ask the state for more money, and we can increase the cash incentive from $5,000 to $7,000, $500, or realistically, whatever you want that to be. Anything over 7,000 sort of appears to be the magic number, and I'll elaborate on that in a quick second. The second thing is we thought of, gosh, and Ryan and I had several conversations. I think the first couple of movers were just individuals by themselves, which there's nothing wrong with that, right? They bring value. They're going to come here, move here, live here, possibly, find someone they want to live the rest of their life with and start a family here. I'm actually one of those people. So, the sentiment was, how could we attract more families? And so obviously the increase in the cash incentive certainly could help for that. But then we just started thinking outside the box and just analyzing what would a family be looking for? And so we looked at some of the other packages and just thought of, there's a handful of communities that they have a sports package where they'll waive the youth sports league sign-up fees, which could save hundreds of dollars for families. They'll do welcome meal preps. They'll have local residents. I mean, it could be Chick-fil-A. I told Jason earlier that I had Chick-fil-A last night, so I'm a fan. But it could be anything, right? But local residents providing either a Chick-fil-A or a home-cooked meal for some of these people as they're moving and getting acclimated to the community. And then, maybe a performing arts pass, season tickets, local passes to theater, performing arts, some sort of a family fun pack that bundles passes to attractions such as bowling, miniature golf, things of those nature. And then lastly, a local dining experience, right? So I initially met John probably almost 2 years ago at Cooper's Hawk, right? So maybe that's part of a local dining package. So those are all things that kind of came to mind. And then some of the things we thought of would be like the Avon Players Community Theater, the Virtual Galaxy, the Tie-Dye Lab, OPA, Cooper's Hawk, and then the You Paint It Pottery Studio, right? Those are all things that we think would totally attract more of a family kind of vibe, right? So that's part one. And then part two, again, if we go back to looking at the cash incentive, if the cash incentive at 5,000 got us 5 movers, what would it mean if we bumped it up to 7,000 or even 7,500? And if we did that, we actually could do that for the remaining 5 households that we're still working on getting from the first go around, and for the next 10 for the second go around. And so I had my team kind of put I asked them just before we came up with this number. I said, what's the sweet spot? They said 7,000. They said all of our data shows a substantial increase in click-through rates, which is 177% of anything that has a package that's 7,000 or north, and then an application rate of 66% when that package is 7,000 or greater. And so that at that point we were like, okay, that makes sense. And so if you think about it, then I went back and I was like, okay, we've done this with White County. I think they had 2 movers at 5,000, and we increased to 7,500, and today they're at 9. Perry County, I want to say in their first year we had 3 movers. We increased the incentive, and then we ended up with 13. And then another one was Pittsfield, Illinois. They had 5,000. We increased to 7,500, and they had 0 movers, and we literally got them 3 in a month and a half. So we know that 7,000 or 7,500 is kind of the sweet spot. The other thing is that, we'll build a plan and collaborate with Ryan and Suzanne on a targeted approach for engaged potential partners and exploring their willingness to contribute in compelling family-focused incentive packages. You could do a cash offer of $7,500, or you could do a cash offer of $7,000, and you could use that $500 to go reach out to some of the places that I just mentioned, right? Like Cooper's Hawk or things of those nature. Either way, the one thing we sort of deliberated on, and the conclusion we came to is that we can't just do the same thing and expect a different result, right? So like if we want to move in and do this next year, go get the remaining 5 movers and bring in another 10. How do we do that? And that was kind of what we came up with, right? Was just making sure that we're heavily involved in the process of helping acquire the incentive package, which I don't think we were last year, Ryan, because that's just kind of, we've transitioned and we've grown, and that's something that we're kind of starting to do with our communities now. And then the last thing too, that I think would help from sort of maybe a family perspective is offering some sort of incentive for a partner that secures a qualifying local job as well. So SOAR is an acronym for Shaping Our Appalachian Regions in Kentucky. They'll offer, and it doesn't have to be this high, but they'll offer $2,500 cash bonus for a partner that secures a qualifying local job in education or healthcare. So that's kind of what, that's really kind of where we're at today. I have put together a proposal. Brian, I don't know if ultimately it's included in any of the. It's in their packets. It's not in the PowerPoint, but they have a copy of it in their packets. Perfect. So I put together a proposal that essentially adds another $2,500 from a mover incentive perspective to the remaining 5, and then just ups the for the next 10, ups that to $7,500. That total for the line item, it's a little blurry, I know, I'm sorry, is $87,500. So what Make My Move has done is that we've reduced our fixed costs, and we've increased the mover incentive costs so that the essential total cost almost lines up to what it was last year. And then we've already gone to the IEDC. We've already gotten approval on this actual pro forma. So ultimately, you know, if you guys decide to move forward, this could be an option, or if we need to kind of go back to the drawing board and look at things, we can do that as well. But I just want to make sure to let you know, with the IDC matching funds that we have, you know, we're going through that process right now with every single community partner that we've worked with, and kind of formally finalizing what the next iteration of their program looks like. Any questions?
How do we measure the value added that these 5 new households have brought us that have come here?
How do you measure the value of the households that have come here? Mm-hmm. So we use a software program called InPlan, and it takes all kinds of things with regards to economic output sort of generated. For the most part, it's taking their spend, right? So when they get here, where they're actually spending money, but then it also takes into account local tax revenue as well. And if you're ever interested, I have access to the program. I could walk you through, just sort of on like a one-off like Zoom call. I could just walk you through, hey, here's this person's income, and then show you how it spits everything out essentially. But it's a laundry list of items that they're going out and spending, you know, for food and various things.
How many of these people actually live and work in Avon?
I believe they all do.
Of these 5?
Yeah.
So I know some of them are work from home people.
Yeah, all of them are remote workers today.
Right, so do they work from home for Avon companies, or do they work from home for companies within the state they just moved?
That's a great question. They work for home from the company that was in the state that they came from. And that's part of why the IEDC has contributed to this program in the past and moving forward in the present. So they view this as job creation, right? Because we're taking somebody that has a job in Illinois is actually taking that job essentially and moving to Indiana.
They're not necessarily, we had two who are entrepreneurs who had remote companies, but they're remote jobs. And then Ryan's right, the other ones were people, their job may not even be in the place where they live. Like, we got someone from Florida, but their company may have been in New York, they were working remotely in Florida. And so that they moved to Avon, their company still may be in New York. But people are moving here because of a better cost of living if they're leaving their space. You guys can see this, it's all across the news. You know, people are reporting this, people are leaving California, people are leaving New York. And they want to go to places in the Midwest where they can get better quality of life and lower cost of living. And so that's basically what you're finding. And so, again, I think it's spread across. It's all kinds of different situations for different people, but they have to bring their job with them. That's one of the criteria.
Yeah, I recently sent Ryan an article that came out over the last weekend in the Wall Street Journal. Huge article that mentions a handful of communities, the program itself. I mean, it was just great press, not only for us, but just for all of our community partners, because it lights up the leads the leads and the applicants just start lighting up when something like that happens, actually. I'll have him send that to all of you, or I can get it to all of you as well.
And I've seen articles locally, Fishers, Noblesville, up there, Carmel area, and the success that they've had. I guess my question is, from an incentive standpoint, Avon as a whole, when you talk about live entertainment and things like that, we really don't have that. So have you partnered with the county, with different municipalities within that county, and used the incentives or they moved to Avon, but we're all going to go outside of our boundaries, and we're going to go to Brownsburg, we're going to go to Indianapolis, we're going to go to Plainfield, and maybe try to create an incentive package within the county.
Yeah, I mean, we have a handful. I mean, a handful of communities that we're partnered with at a county level. There are even some at a regional level. So Radius is an economic development group that essentially all the counties kind of support Crane Naval Base down south. And yeah, we do see success. I mean, for numerous things. I mean, if, housing and things of that nature. I think that's part of why, one, I know increasing the cash incentive would offset maybe like we don't have this, that, or the other, right? So if you increase the cash incentive, it would sort of offset that. And if you don't use the full 7,500, but you use the remaining 500 on incentives, you could go buy like Cubs tickets, right? And a hotel like with that for like just to get out of town for a weekend, right? You move to Avon, but like Chicago's close by, or, anything to that nature. Does that answer your question? I mean, we've had a lot of success from a county level, and from just because you do get more, there are more things that you can offer. So if there's something that, concert tickets, right, for Hendrix Live or something of that nature, you could go buy those tickets, right, with some of that extra incentive money.
Do you work with the local Chamber of Commerce's as well?
We'll work with whoever wants to work with us. We don't turn anyone down.
Have you approached Hendricks County on the county level?
I believe John and I kind of did that together. I really kind of let him steer the ship on that one. So I didn't have, other than a lunch and a follow-up conversation, I didn't have much beyond that.
I guess the problem that I have with it is, you mentioned White County, you mentioned Perry County. I think on a county level, it kind of makes more sense than a smaller municipality looking at spending taxpayer money to bring in new people. I mean, I get a little frustrated when my bank offers new people incentives to bring their money to the bank, but I'm sitting there and I can't get the incentive because I've been a loyal customer for 25 years. So I kind of have a little bit of, I heard that. I kind of have a little bit of an issue with spending taxpayer money to bring people to Avon.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people do, but that's also why the IDC comes in and matches what the community pays 1-to-1. So technically, you're off the hook when it comes.
Because we're still paying one.
Well, the IDC could be paying that though.
So the IDC can pay it all?
They're paying the 1-to-1 matching funds on those.
Right, so we're paying $1, they're paying $1. So it's still Avon taxpayer money.
I mean, there is Avon taxpayer money in this, yes, indeed.
I don't know, that's just my feel.
One last question on your pricing and performance. What we've got here, your program administration, that $45,000 figure. Is that dollar for dollar cover expenses, or is that just a arbitrary number that you're plugging in to cover any expenses that are out there?
So that's an in-kind for essentially for the program administrator here, which last year
That's
was
us, Greg.
Suzanne.
Yeah, that's for Suzanne and I.
Oh, that comes to us?
That comes to us, yes. And the IDC is paying half of that. So that's our involvement in the plan. Same with the mover incentives. The town is paying the mover incentives. So the only thing we're really paying to make my moves is the 120,000. Even though the IDC is picking up half of those, the mover incentive and half of the administrative cost.
Our cost was still 120.
Our cost is 81,250.
How much do you expect to budget if we renew this?
But we have $80,000 in the budget for this year for renewal. So we're short about 1,250. But again, we could make that up in next year, or we can figure something out to be able to pay for it.
So this is one of those things as we do the budget for 26 that we're going to be considering that.
Well, so this is really for 25 into 26. So we would pay this year. So we'd pay out of the 2025 budget. If you guys want to do it in 26, or if you want to budget for it in 26, that's a discussion we would talk about. This would come out of 25 budget. We paid for this year out of last year's budget.
Except for the shortage.
Correct. Well, we haven't paid the shortage yet just because we haven't entered an agreement yet. That's for a year.
When are you going to put this on the agenda?
Unless you guys have any other questions, it'd be on your agenda on the August 28th meeting.
No other questions, I guess.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you for your
Feel
time.
free to go,
Appreciate
Ryan.
it.
You don't have to stick around.
Moving on to the will and excise tax discussion.
Yeah, I'm going to go through this a little bit quicker. I know you guys, I've brought this to your attention. We talked about it as we knew this legislation was coming through. And so I've provided some resources here to you guys. Again, I'm not going to walk you through all these PowerPoints. These PowerPoints are actually from LTAP, which is the Purdue Local Transportation Assistance Program. So they've put together guidance for cities and towns based on the law. And so you can see there's really two things. There's a wheel tax and there's an excise and surtax. And so you'll see there's kind of different rates. Again, I'm not going to run you guys through that. All of these rates would be paid at the time that someone gets their license plate renewed. And so if you guys flip back to some of the later pages, this was part of HEA 1461. If you guys see this sheet, I'm going to talk about this a little bit. If you guys can get to this one where it kind of breaks it down, because this really goes to the reason that we as staff, and Greg Garitas will be here at your August 28th meeting, and he's going to recommend that you guys pass a wheel tax as well. But this is really the story about why we're recommending it, is because that House bill basically changed the way the Community Crossing Matching Grant Program works. So to go back a little bit, the Community Crossing Matching Grant Program, when the legislature about 5 years ago passed a gas tax increase, instead of that all just matriculating through MVH and LRS to everybody, the state caught all of that money. Well, they expected it to bring in about $100 million. Well, the reality is it's bringing in somewhere in the area of $325 million. So what the state was doing, and you guys will be familiar with this, when we applied for community crossing grants, it used to be really hard to get them, and that's because there was only $100 million. Well, then all of a sudden it got really easy to get them, and that's because they had $320 million to give out. Well, that was never really the intent. And actually, if you look at the way, and you guys may remember this, I shared with you the way the community crossing matching grants were actually unfairly benefiting more rural areas. And so urban areas were basically losing out of the money. And the reason that is because there's $1 million cap. And so someone like the city of Indianapolis can only get $1 million, or we could only get $1 million. Well, a county that didn't have as many miles of streets and whatever, they were still getting $1 million too. And actually they're getting more because the way the community crossing matching grant worked was if you're a rural county, it's not a 50-50 match. So if you're over, I don't remember what the population threshold is. I want to say it's 10,000. If you're over 10,000, it's a 50-50 match. If you're below, it's like a 30-70 match. And so community crossing is giving them 70%. So what we were seeing was road conditions in rural counties were going like this, and road conditions in urban counties were going like this. And so it kind of started this discussion about, well, how are we going to fix this? And so this is kind of what came out of that was we need to find a different way to distribute that community crossing matching grant. And so the first piece you'll notice, so that's the way the new law goes, the first $100 million of community crossing will still continue to be distributed the way it's being distributed now. And actually, now that I'm looking at it, I'm going to turn you guys to the next slide, which is actually this one. Not the one that I first told you, the one that has the red box in the bottom. Then they're also going to go to their tracks, which is a safety program. And then they create an incentive for Indianapolis to get $50 million. Now, if Indianapolis is going to get $50 million, in order for them to do that, they need to come up with $50 million in new revenue to match that $50 million. So it'll be interesting to see if Indy can come up with it. If Indy doesn't come up with it, it rolls into the red box, which is the lane mile distribution. Now, in order for you to qualify for the lane mile distribution, you're going to have a wheel tax. So if you don't have a wheel tax, then you're not eligible for that red box. So they've basically put us in a position where we have to adopt a wheel tax if we want to be eligible for that. So you'll see that could potentially be $190 to $250 million of additional revenue that we would be eligible for road maintenance.
Statewide.
What's that?
Statewide.
Statewide, correct. So that's a substantial amount of money. Let's see if we keep going. And then you have a slide that looks like this. If you go, I think it's 2 pages back further, shows what it may look like for the next 3 years and what they're estimating based on their revenue projections. Nobody will get the additional distribution in 2026. They're not going to start giving it to you until 2027. But you have to pass the wheel tax before September 1st of this year. So this is a decision you guys have to make right away. But you can see that same thing, those red boxes, that's the amount of money over the next 3 years. So somewhere between the area of $400 million to $800 million in order to be eligible for that additional lane mile distribution. You have to do a wheel tax. So as I mentioned, I, as well as your financial advisor, are going to recommend that you guys do a wheel tax. So that gets us down to some of the more details. You'll notice there is a letter in here I just shared with you with the BMV. The BMV actually collects this. And so they provided a letter to all the communities explaining what they would need in order to enact the wheel tax. And so I just kind of provided that to you guys. I will share with you that they offered to review our ordinance. So I know you have an introduction of an ordinance on your agenda tonight. I have already shared that with the BMV. The BMV has reviewed it and says it meets all the criteria. There's a couple things we need to provide when we do finally submit it with them that they said, hey, don't forget you have to do these things. So kudos to Dan and Anna for drafting an ordinance that meets all those requirements. And so then the final 2 pages I want to talk about is these are analysis. And again, Greg will go over these with you on the 28th. this is analysis. You can see there's a range. You guys can choose a range that you want to do for the wheel tax and the surtax. So Financial Solutions Group has done a projection for you. If you set it at the lowest amount, that's the first page, 134. So you'll see we don't really know, obviously, because since we've never gotten this, we're just estimating. So they've estimated on the low end, if you do the very least amount you can do, you'll bring in somewhere between $127,000 and $198,000 a year if you set it at the lowest amount. And again, there's any number of analysis we can do between the low and the high. Page 135 is an estimate if you went to the most you can do, which is $25 for the surtax and $40 for the wheel tax. And that would bring in somewhere between $477,000 in revenue and $726,000 in revenue. So just kind of wanted to share that information with you. I know you have it on your agenda to be introduced tonight. You obviously don't have to vote tonight. And again, you can get some input from Greg. We will need guidance from you guys on where you would want to set it. I think our advice is that you guys do this once. You'll already get beat up for doing it. You do it once, and that your best bet is that you put it at the highest and it is what it is. And you can, again, the legislature has put you guys in this position where you really don't have a choice. If you're going to do it, you might as well do it. Again, the money from the wheel tax has to be used for road maintenance. And so we'll talk about that over the next couple of meetings too. I know Steve's trying to wrap up his our life cycle modeling, which would show if we invest additional money in paving and road maintenance, how that would impact us. This also helps us. We've talked about in the past, Greg in particular has pushed us to find a way to apply fully for the community crossing matching grant. We typically can't apply for a full $1.5 million match because we have to have $1.5 million and we don't spend $1.5 million in paving. So that additional money could become our match to hopefully get the full $1.5 million. So not only by doing that, could you also go out and get another $500,000, but then it'll also make us eligible for that additional distribution of road miles as well.
How many dollars worth of community crossings matching grant money are we getting on each year right now?
It depends. So like last year, I think we got about 1.3 million. I think this year we got about 1.2 million.
Okay.
In the past, it was much less than that because, the last 2 years is when they upped the limit to $1.5 million for more urban communities.
The note on the bottom here says the above estimates are based on actual vehicle registrations with Avon mailing addresses. We know that that's not accurate to the town of Avon. How is this going to get calculated? There's an entire giant neighborhood that's a Plainfield address that's in the town of Avon, and there are loads of homes that have Indianapolis addresses. What's going to happen with them?
That's an interesting question because the other piece of that question is that's how the BMV is currently doing it, is based on our zip code. So you kind of went to the negative of it, that there are some people who live in Avon, but there are a lot of people who live in Avon who are not in the town of Avon that have an Avon zip code too. So we don't know how the BMV is going to reconcile that issue, but I've been trying to get in front of the United States Postal Service to fix our zip code to actually match our town limits, which I don't know if some of you have seen. I don't think it'll ever happen, but I did just see, I don't know if it made it through Congress, but somehow Zionsville, Carmel, Westfield, and Fishers got in a bill that a congresswoman from Colorado proposed, ordering the United States Postal Service to make their boundaries the same as their town limits for their zip codes. So I don't know how they did that, but I saw that and I was like, I can't believe that. We've been trying to do that forever. I can't get anyone to call me back. I can't get anyone to talk to me about it. I don't even know how to navigate that. My next step is to go to our congressman and see if he can help us.
I was going to say, Ryan, didn't we kind of touch on that when we met with our representatives the other day and they talked about like geofencing?
Correct. And we think that's what the BMV should do. We just, again, we don't have control of that. So it's a great question, Robert, because we don't control that. That's the same issue that the state's going to have with the lit, is when this lit goes into place right now, it's just the county is collecting it based on the county. It's not going to towns. But in 2027, if we're going to pass a local lit, they have to be able to geofence our boundaries and capture it. So at some point, we know the state's going to have that ability. We just don't know that the BMV has it right now. And so that's the information is it's based on zip code. And Dan knows more about it too, so.
Yeah, the law says that it'll be the job of BMV to allocate this all accurately for each car registered by someone who resides in your town. This is new. Prior, only counties had wheel taxes, and they've had them for a long time, wheel and surtaxes. So if they were at the BMV, they were in the right place. And the BMV didn't need to ask them where in Hendricks County they lived. It didn't matter. So then when financial consultants want to go in and say, oh my, well, how much if now we can have our own wheel tax and surtax, how much would that be? The BMV form didn't say I am a resident of, check the box, right? Didn't need to do that. So the financial consultants went in and they did it by zip code because the BMV keeps your zip code so they can mail you a notice saying you have to register your car soon, right? So this reference to zip codes is really merely a way to estimate what you might see. It is not going to be how the BMV does it. They're required to do it. There's going to be a place when you go and register your car, whether you do it electronically or in person, where you have to make a declaration of where you are a resident. You know, Hendricks County, town of Avon, town of Brandsburg, it's going to be boxes. And they're going to have to do that. And your zip code's not going to matter. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, but it's new and that data is not being captured because, all the BMV cared about before was, are you a resident of Hendricks County? That's all that mattered. So it's going to be a brand new ballgame. You'll get all the right people.
So the estimated annual revenue that you're showing here could be grossly overstated.
It could be understated.
Could be understated.
Yeah, you don't
We
really know.
It's the only data we have available at the moment.
Say if they're declaring it themselves, it's probably understated because most people think they live in the town.
What you know is your
Correct,
wheel tax and surtax for 2025 is going to be zero. And if you adopt a rate, you're going to get more than zero in 2026.
Well, I've said this a long time. As long as community crossing was there, we better take every dollar that we can get while it's there because it's going to go away. This is how it's going to go away if we don't react to this. And I think that's the key word is we're reacting to our state legislature has put us in this position to do this. And if we're going to react, then I say you go $40 and $25. Take your hit once and go on your way. Because we need to continue to applying for community crossing and the maximum dollars that we can get to keep our roads in the condition that they're in today.
Okay, temporary receptionist position discussion.
Yes, I wanted to just touch base with you guys on this really quick. We have our receptionist has informed us that they're going to go on medical leave, and we expect that to be for 12 weeks. And so being that it's our receptionist, it's our person that answers the phone. We've had some internal conversations. Currently, when the receptionist isn't available, Suzanne or Betsy back up that position. But doing that for a 12-week period is cumbersome. So we've kind of talked about what the alternatives are. We've used a temp in the past. The problem with the temp is they tend to change. You may not get the same person for 12 weeks. And then we have to train them, teach them how to do it. And then sometimes it may change 3 weeks later and you get another person. And so the other thing with the temp, we've called a couple companies. Typically what they'll do is they'll take a rate. So if we say we're willing to pay up to $20 an hour, they'll multiply that by 35%. They'll charge us instead of $20 an hour. They'll charge, $28 to $36 for that employee. So I think the route we would recommend going is just trying to hire someone temporarily for 12 weeks to be that receptionist. We would pay it probably $20 an hour or something like that. There's no money in the budget for that, so I wanted to have a conversation with you. There's also no position in the salary ordinance for a temporary receptionist position, so just kind of wanted to get that out in front of you, see if you guys had some input. The leave would occur in October, so I've got a little bit of time, but I don't have too much time, so I have to make a decision and try to implement some plan to come forward. Or if the council is just not willing to work with me on it, then I'll figure out some other alternative. So
I don't want to be offensive, but what's the role of this receptionist aside from answering the phone?
answering the phones, welcoming people who come in. They do help the planning and building department. They do some of their permitting. I mean, honestly, answering the phones and welcoming people is their main job.
I want to add to that, because that position does all the permitting for planning and building, which means the revenue. When they take in the revenue, they're also responsible for the collection reports, which directly affect me, and not to be selfish, but if they are not correct and done properly and the money's not applied to the permit properly, it screws me up really bad at the end of the month. And it will take me forever to unwind it. So that is also part of what they do, is they do all the permitting, they do all the, there's more to it than what he's saying.
Sure.
But it directly affects the revenue side of it and the reporting side of it.
So if we have a temporary person and it's a different person every week, like you're saying it could be, then are we really going to be able to train them for what you're saying, Julie?
No, I think that's her point. Her point is she'd probably rather us hire somebody and who's going to be here for 12 weeks, who we can train and we know they'll be here for 12 weeks versus having a temp. And then we're spending more for a temp versus just hiring someone temporarily.
Can we do that and then let them go? Yes, and when you hire them, as long as you indicate to them that they're being hired to fill a temporary position, just like seasonal employment that has a certain beginning date and a certain end date, then you're protected. But you have to state that, and we need to state that in writing. So you do the same thing with some of your summer help that you receive, but we would treat this the same way. For purposes of unemployment compensation, we would indicate that they're being hired from this date to this date, and that then their job ends. So we can handle that. Good question, though.
I feel like we're gonna have an expense one way or the other to cover this position. I think what you're asking is you might have a way to reduce that expense by us hiring them in-house. I think my concern is that puts the liability of you finding someone that is willing to work for 12 weeks and 12 weeks only on you and the staff, where we can outsource that to this temp agency to hire someone. What's your confidence level that we'll be able to find someone that's willing to work for 12 weeks only?
Well, we've had a couple people who I think maybe other employees have known. And so I think
You already have interest.
we have some interest from some people. I've had other people, we have on our website, people can apply for jobs. Probably the most common application that you get is just administrative assistant people looking for something. I don't know that they're necessarily looking for a temporary job, but I think that would be our best bet, is find somebody, maybe somebody knows you can do it for 12 weeks and do it. I don't know that, which is why I'm having this conversation with you now, is that if you're comfortable with that direction, I will start that process. If it looks like I'm not going to get anybody, or I'm not going to find anybody, then I got to go to plan B. So I was more so, at some point, you guys would have to say it's okay for me to hire a temporary position. And I didn't want to go down that road and then find out later we wouldn't do that.
When you say someone that someone knows, we would, of course, follow nepotism rules, right?
Yes.
I know it's not 12 weeks, but when someone goes on vacation for a week or two, what do you do then?
That's the executive assistant, and then our other administrative assistant would typically cover for them. Or even our planning and building tech on occasion has to cover. Sometimes our code enforcement officer covers. We basically just work and we find people that cover the front. I've done it sometimes, like whoever's available to do it, we find someone and we fill the spot.
Ryan won't let me do it.
I won't let Steve do it, that's about the only.
We understand.
Ken,
Okay,
and I might be crossing lines here that I shouldn't cross, but it's a question. Can the receptionists in the police department help?
She is so busy over there, we could actually use more.
It was just a question.
And vice versa.
okay. Special lighting district process.
So did you get an answer, Ryan?
I don't know that I didn't have an objection.
Well, we
so-
can't vote, so.
We're not
Right,
voting.
I guess
We're not voting, we're just giving some indication.
in general, I didn't hear an objection to me moving forward.
I like the way you put that.
12 weeks. And so as long as no one objects, that's the route I'll start down, and I'll keep you all informed as I move forward.
I like the way you put that let's try and go with plan A of finding this at a little bit less expensive route, and a temp agency isn't going to take much time to spin up and try and find that.
Well, I'm old school. I want somebody to answer the phone, not go to recording, not push button 2. That goes somewhere and then that person's not there. So you hit button 4 and you don't get a hold of anybody.
It's very frustrating.
I would say that is the other option. Our phone system is set up that we could not have anyone answer the phone. But that's what I've heard from you guys in the past is you don't want that. You want a live person answering the phone. So I didn't think that was necessarily an option. Because people complain and they get frustrated even when they get into our system that they can't actually get to a person. So that's why I didn't go that route. But that's plan C is we can just have our answering system pick it up. People could dial by name for whoever.
Well, I guess that was the point of my question. I mean, if there's other tasks though, that doesn't solve the problem.
It doesn't entirely. There's still other tasks that people have to do. There's still, someone still has to welcome people when they walk in the door. There's someone someone wants to pay for a building permit, someone still has to take the money, give them a receipt. There's still other interactions that are taking place other than just answering the phones.
John could come in for 12 weeks.
You'd have to work, Bill.
John's
Oh,
already working. John's doing it. You don't want anything on development for 12 weeks, you can do that.
let's move on. Special lighting district process.
So I wanted to revisit the special lighting district. You guys will recall, we talked about this, it may have been end of last year or either earlier this year, as it relates to East and Gray. Dan had laid out a process for us on if we wanted to create a special lighting district, what that would look like. So there's a copy of a memorandum that our legal team put together for us on what that would look like. You guys had kind of asked for, well, it's hard to make a decision on something when we don't know how many lights there are, what the expected cost is going to be. And so I've been working with Republic and Pasari on what that looks like. So you do have that now. You'll see there's lighting all phases. There'll be 187 streetlights. There'll be 47, I'm going to call them bollard lights for lack of a better term, but the more pedestrian scale as you're walking through the town center. They have lighting that lights up the sidewalks. All of those lights, these are lights in the right of way. So these would be lights in our jurisdiction. We're not maintaining any on private property. So if it's parking lights, lights inside the buildings, we're not proposing to take any of this. This is all stuff that would be in the public right. And so you'll see the proposed annual electrical cost for that's $11,206. And then the suggestion from Pasari, so just remember, Pasari is actually going to install all of the lighting. So there's no upfront capital cost to us. So the original $374,000 investment to buy the lights and install them will all be done by the developer. What they have suggested is like a replacement reserve so that we collect a certain amount of money so that over 30 years we build up enough money to basically replace the lights as they need to be done. So that's kind of what they've done here. They came up with an annual cost of operation of $23,680.18. The next page is, I understand, I apologize, I know it's super confusing to see. It's not very helpful. That shows every light in the entire subdivision, but it also shows the internal lights that we're not taking. So I've asked them to work on a new exhibit for me that just shows the street lights only, the lights that they're proposing to take. And you probably can't see them on your exhibit anyway because they're so small, but if you see little blue, they look like kind of figure eights. Those are the actual street lights along the street. So that's kind of a summation of the situation. So I guess I wanted to talk about this a little bit and how we got to this point in the first place. I think there's 4 ways that we can approach these lights. I think originally we thought it was going to be a really big expense, and so we wanted to be able to spread it across a lot of people. But $11,000 is not that substantial. So my first question to Pasari was, why not just make it like an HOA expense, which is that's how we typically handle it for subdivisions now. We will take an exterior light like at the entrance of their subdivision, but if there's interior lights, we say HOA, you maintain it. So I asked them that question, and what they basically said, they said they have that problem at Saxony. That's what they did in Saxony, which is in Fishers. And they said they've had problems. The HOA is not good at dealing with those kind of issues. Capital and infrastructure issues, typically that's local government is better at it. That's kind of in our wheelhouse. That's what we do. And so their experience with that has not been great, that it doesn't work. They don't get the signs replaced. And they said that who it really falls on is those neighbors then call their town council people and complain that the lights aren't getting fixed. And the town council then has to turn around and say, well, contact your HOA. And then they just do this circle and nothing gets fixed, and that's created frustration. So the second option that I think of, which I think Greg actually brought up at the previous discussion when we talked about this, was an economic development district. That is something we could do. I know John and I talked about it today. We don't have exactly the information of what that would take. We think it is a little bit complicated. The third option is the lighting district, which I've provided you guys that process. There's a couple downsides to the lighting district. The lighting district is, first off, the town has to pay 35% of the operating costs. And the town has to pay 100% of the lighting at the intersections. And the intersections are defined by anything within 50 feet. So of those lights in this plan, if we go out intersections 50 feet, there's going to be a portion of it the town has to pay 100% of the cost. And then once we subtract that, the town will still be responsible for 35% of the power for those as well. So being that this number is not that big and not that scary, creating that lighting district is going to be really challenging and really intense. And even when I had a conversation with Dan and Anna, they said, I'm probably going to spend more than $11,000 on legal fees just to figure out how to charge people for the lighting district. So that leads me to the fourth option, which I also discussed with Pasari, which is that the town just accepts the lights. We take them on. We say, the Riverwalk district is important to us. It's a focal point of our community. We want it to look nice. We want it to be maintained. We want the lights to work. So we're willing to accept that responsibility. That's actually what Noblesville did. So Saxony's on both sides of 69. And on the Noblesville side, Noblesville took the lights. On the Fishers side, they didn't. And it's working great in Noblesville, and they're having problems in Fishers. So I didn't necessarily want to ask you that option before. I think even in the last conversation we had, we thought the number would be much bigger, much scarier. But only now, if I back out 35% of the 11,000, that means the town's already paying $4,000. So we're basically talking about $7,000 more per year for us to just take the lights. Again, we've got no capital expense. So the challenge would be for us is the replacement cost and maintaining the lights going forward. So we would have to figure that out. But kind of after going through all this exercise and looking at our options, I guess that would be my recommendation to you is versus us going through all this trouble, why don't we just accept the lights? And I think we can find $10,000 to budget in our budget to be able to budget for the electricity for the lighting. And then again, I'd work with Steve and our staff to figure out how we'd go about maintaining them going into the future.
So with the reserve, we're at 34,887.02 annual. Because we have the cost of electricity, plus we have the annual reserve for replacement, future replacement.
Yeah, the total's 23,860. So the annual reserve's 12,473.
Oh, I'm sorry. I added the 23,680. Okay.
Nope.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, and again, we could budget the reserve and create like our own fund within where we're creating that reserve. But that's what we could not create the reserve and just pay for the lights as they need to be repaired. And we could budget to pay for the electricity and then none of it. Again, I think the cost of it versus the complications of what we're trying to accomplish, I don't know that we accomplished that goal.
And in HOA, given the way they function, they want to do a reserve account because someone wants to have some certainty there's any money left to fix a street light that's broken. Whereas if you all, under the special lighting district, the statute envisions that you would pay for the installation of the original light. So you're skipping that part, and which means you don't have costs to recover. But you also, you could, you wouldn't have to have a reserve account. You have the wherewithal to install, if it's $400,000 or $500,000 worth of new lights in 20 years. You all can handle that. You don't need to give anyone that assurance. You have sufficient funds to do that. You could establish a fund and have a budget that you might have to, every year, but you wouldn't really be spending the money. And so, but HOAs, if they don't have reserve accounts, they never have any money. And so I wouldn't let that throw you off. That was really a developer sort of focused suggestion, which makes perfect sense if you were a developer. But as a municipality, you would simply carry those streetlights on your capital asset plan, and you would show a depreciation of those. The useful life is estimated to be 30 years. So you obviously would need to replace some as they were knocked down or they wore out or needed fixed. But other cities that have either do the streetlights on their own or have an electrical utility that is in charge of this, they don't really set money aside for replacement. They budget it, but they don't set the money aside because they can always move the money over just like you guys do all the time.
Okay.
Could you use your rainy day fund as a potential fund to use that?
We don't touch the rainy day fund. No.
Do not
I'm
say
saying-
spend rainy day. You could if you had to, Greg, yeah.
I mean, if you had to.
But yeah, don't tell Greg Garretthouse that. His head will explode. Or if he says something that makes you mad on August 28th, ask him that, Greg, and watch his head explode.
So think about what we do already with it. We have a lot of streetlights already. We repair the ones that need to be repaired. We upgrade the ones that need to be upgraded as we go along. We replace the ones that need to be replaced. And if there are accidents, we get recovery usually. Our police department does a good job of getting the information, and we usually get their insurance information. So I don't see this as anything more than expanding the number of lights we have. I don't see it as a big deal.
I think it's the best thing for us, quite frankly. When are you going to put it on the agenda so you can have a decision, or what are you going to do? Or do you need a decision?
I don't know that if you want to create a special lighting district, that will require us to go a certain process. If you think there's a willingness to accept the lights, I think you would accept the lights when they're put in. I mean, we accept the infrastructure that's in our right of way. So you would basically accept those as the subdivision's being built. We would accept those basically when those areas were platted. If you don't want to do that, we need to put something in place before that happens.
And put the power expenses into your 26 budget.
Right.
We pretty much have indicated this is, a project for the town. I don't think we should leave anything for someone else to have to take care of. I don't know what goes on with the lights in your all's neighborhood, but I can tell you we have ornamental lights that we're responsible for, AA, or as the HOA. It is a total pain. I don't think we want our Taj Mahal, so to speak, to have any other problems.
So Ryan, this is just for the initial main street coming up. We're not going all the way up to County Road 100 North with our lights, correct?
This is just the Riverwalk district,
Okay.
but it is all the streets in the Riverwalk district. So it is the main street in, and it's the streets in the Riverwalk. But as it goes into the HOPA and into the single family homes, it is not that. It's
Okay.
solely the Riverwalk district.
Okay.
And that would be the differentiation.
Okay.
Those neighborhoods do have streetlights, and we're not taking those.
Okay.
That's not part of what we've discussed.
Okay.
I'm okay with not, sorry.
Your next topic, could you dedicate some of that revenue towards that?
You mean from the next topic? Oh, of course, yeah, sure, yeah.
I mean, then my mind is saying, yeah, we'll spend the money.
Right, yeah. Yep.
Well, how long are your warranties good for anyhow on the initial improvement?
That's a good point.
5 years, so you're still 5 years out.
Right.
We just need a receptionist that will answer the phone to let her know that my street light's out and I need Mr. Moore to fix it.
I'll do it.
No, Steve is not allowed to do it.
I was
Sorry,
just going
Jason,
to say,
go
if you're looking for an answer, I guess it sounds like most of us are okay with not pursuing a special lighting district.
Okay.
Arcadia Towers.
So this is just a for your information kind of thing. Actually, John and I were approached about this as well. And you guys will recall, we've had lots of discussion over the last 5 years, and I think it's going to continue to be a discussion about Wi-Fi and cell reception. The technology is changing, and so the delivery methods are changing. At one point, I think we had a Verizon came and met with us and talked about putting in small cell nodes. So this is kind of a version of that, but it's a little bit different. And the reason I wanted to share it with you, I probably wouldn't have shared it with you otherwise, is that I think this company is doing something a little bit unique because they're looping in the community as a partner, and then they're willing to revenue share with the community as part of that. Now, we are giving something as well. We're saying they could use our property, which is basically right-of-way or remnant property that we own in certain areas around town. They would utilize those properties, and so we are giving something up. We are giving a location for them. What they would put up is a monopole, which is a pole that goes straight up and it's really tall, and it would allow several different utilities to co-locate. But again, that would be the benefit, is that those other processes, we don't really have any say in where they go and how many of them they have. This gives us some control to say how many, and then it also gets us to force other people to co-locate to that, because the law, the telecommunications law says we can force them to co-locate if facilities are available. So we could, if AT&T came along and said, well, I want to put a small cell node here, we could say, no, there's a monopole right there, you can go on it. And the more utilities are on that, then that would eventually come to us too as part of our revenue share. So this is a little presentation that Arcadia Towers put together for us. Again, there may be other companies out here doing the same thing. Again, I'm just really just gauging, is there any interest? Is there any interest in further dialogue? You can see they've 500 towers in more than 20 states. They're continuing to grow. Again, I'm not going to walk you guys through all these slides. You can see they kind of provided some data that mobile devices are contributing to 61% of website traffic. So I think everybody knows this. That's continuing to grow. They've also used public safety as it's helpful to public safety as well. The more availability of cell towers closer to them helps their communications as well. We've heard that from our police department before. You know, in the high school, that they may not get good reception, but if there's a tower closer by. So then they did a little bit of analysis. So if you get to this one that kind of looks like a funnel, that shows where they're showing like heavy users. They basically have GIS data where they can identify, and then they can basically find a location where they can hit certain users who would be demanding those services. And so again, they've kind of given you that. So then they've given us some financial projections as well. So they did one for a single tower on what the town could generate in terms of for a year. Then they've also given us what if we did 5 towers, what that could generate. And of course, that's the number they gave us in their proposal, is that we could generate up to $3 million in potential revenue through this revenue share. Then they kind of show what they typically do. They would do an additional 5-year term. They'd share revenue for 30 years. You will notice, even though it's a 5-year term, they're asking for a 50-year ground lease. So again, I've had this conversation with Dan, and Dan has said these kind of things work, but we need to be very careful about the language and the legal terms of how that works. So there's kind of that information. Then they kind of gave you a process to show you what it would take if we were interested in doing it. So that's really it. I mean, I thought it was interesting. Again, maybe we're interested, maybe we're not. I could see some value in doing it and being able to have some control over it. So I thought it was worthy of at least sharing with all of you and getting your input. The next step would probably be is if you think it is something you're interested in, we'd probably invite them to a work session to come, let them talk directly to you and talk a little bit more about specifics. I think they did offer, yeah, that if we wanted, like for our public safety or for our fire department, if they wanted to co-locate their facilities, that they'd let them do those kind of things for free as well.
What are you meaning by 154 deemed viable total sites, but then only 5 estimated tower sites?
They basically analyzed the whole town and they came up with 154 locations in town that would be viable for towers. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they do 154 towers.
They're
But
only
they could do more
proposing to do 5.
and that's what they said, that they said if we wanted to do 30, they would look at doing 30. If we wanted to do 50, they'd look at doing 50. And so certainly that's, if you wanted to do a lot, that's where your revenue share becomes beneficial. It doesn't necessarily mean that's what we want to do. So I think initially they try to get their foot in the door. So I think they're just proposing, let's look at 5 locations initially and go from there.
How tall are these towers?
Very tall.
Like
So
40
the
feet.
I was trying to find, I was gonna say, I want to say they're
5G
50
service
feet maybe.
is
Like
really short. You're going to need a tower in your backyard for you to really, I'm being hyperbolic there, but that's,
Right.
this tower proposal that they've got circling settlement, no. You're going to
Well-
need about 10 to
Well, I
cover
think
the
that's
settlement.
what, actually, I think I know they're only showing it as one area, but I think in that area, they'd put all 5 towers.
That's
Like that's,
more
it
reasonable.
would fulfill that whole area. So doing 5 towers would not cover the entire town. The 5 towers only may cover a certain specific area.
So, and I will defer to Greg because he was part of this. We've had experience in this, and I certainly, after the fact, wish we had never done it. But, you know, I question the dollar amounts that are presented here and the benefits that we will receive versus what this town's going to end up looking like.
Right.
I don't know, Greg, did you have anything on that? You were down there when we put up those towers.
Well, my concern is the towers, is the height, but also the aesthetics of the tower.
Yeah.
I mean, my brother-in-law sent me pictures of Madison, Mississippi, of a tower, but you could not tell it was a tower because it looked like something else. That's what we want. We don't want a tower. Everybody knows it's a tower. They'll go, what is that? Oh, that's a tower.
It also affects the value of your home the closer you live to it. So, I would.
Negatively?
Negatively.
Okay.
I mean, if you have a tower in the backyard.
And they
Right.
said 185 locations, but didn't you say it was on town property?
Correct.
So we have 185 potential locations on town.
Probably, but some of them could be right away. Like they could be along a roadway or it could be a right of way. It could be something like that as well. They didn't show us 185 locations, so I'm not sure where they're at. And I think I asked that question because I was like, well, the town does own 185 properties, but a lot of them are public right of ways. And so they said, well, there's specific pieces. So I'm guessing some of the ones that they've probably identified that they like are remnants. So for example, we just built the roundabout at 150 South in Dan Jones. Well, we now own that southeast corner. That's a remnant. Well, that may be a site where they say, we'll co-locate a pole here. Now, again, that would render that property useless to us. And so is the value of the land or keeping the land more valuable to us than what it is? So again, there's lots of things to consider, but.
Well, I think in the past, Mr. Taylor, didn't you say that with all this cell tower conversation going on, that we really didn't have a lot of control if somebody wanted to come in and put that cell tower in.
Yes.
So isn't there some way that we can, is it inevitable? Is it going to happen? And
Yes,
if
I
that's
think
the
so.
case, then maybe we should control our own destiny to some degree.
Yeah, I think that one of the positives to this, and there are some negatives, but one of the positives, it would allow you to have some control into the situs of the monopoles that are, surely will come. And because you would be a partner in the process, and if a utility does it, you have no control. You really don't.
So if they put them in our right of way, which you were saying, and then we want to widen a street, do we have to pay to move them?
We'd have to address that, and that's, to my point earlier, we'll have to see what that agreement looks like and how we would have to navigate that.
When you look at your long-term planning, you would put it where you're.
Yeah, that's-
Never gonna widen.
Yeah.
You put it in another location.
Yeah, but he was saying that most of our 185 locations are right of ways.
Yeah, but not all right of way is gonna be where we're gonna improve the road. We have right of way that will never, road will never touch.
Okay.
But typically, we would not have an obligation to reimburse them for a move if they are in our right of way and we need to exchange the right of way. However, since you're partnering in that, you would want to look closely, you would have Steve and Ryan look really closely at what sites that you're approving, because we really don't want anyone to have the cost of removing. And if you're partnering and doing revenue share, you're just cutting the net revenue of your operation. So you would have a close, maybe a little bit more interest, but the good thing would be we would have some say in locations. How tall are these poles?
40 foot.
That's what
I think I tried to find my notes before the meeting. I think they told us 100. Am I wrong about that, John? Okay. I think they told us 100 foot tall.
So our streetlights are 30 foot tall for comparison.
So it's 3 streetlights at top.
Yeah. This is a little different. These monopoles are slightly different than what you see in some areas. The approach 10 years ago was 230 feet high. There's one not far from my house because there's a large event, nationwide event there. And so this is a slightly different approach to be less visually impactful. The monopoles, it's just a straight up, it's a pretty narrow facility compared to what we think of as cell towers. And they are not the Eiffel Tower sort of design. They're just straight up and straight down. So they are less noticeable, but they are also much smaller than the towers that we have been worried about, primarily the 250 foot towers that have lots of lots of equipment on them. So this is the newest thing that's happening. And like I said, I think I told Ryan, if you guys think it's a good idea, we'd still want to carefully look at all the terms and make sure it's laid out, because if you're looking at a 50-year lease, only Anna will be here in 50 years. And I don't know who will be there.
Steve.
And Steve. And I don't know who from Arcadia will be there, but you have to really have a good agreement because it's such a long-term agreement. You need to address what you can consider.
Okay, thank you. Any other topics? Okay, we'll go ahead and adjourn the work session. council meeting to order. Everyone, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Julie, roll call, please.
Robert Pope,
Present.
Bill Holland, Greg Zuzen,
Present.
Don Loudon,
Present.
Jason Puckett.
Present.
We're going to start off the meeting with swearing in of 2 new officers. Chief Stoops.
All right, first of all, I want to thank everybody for being here this evening. Some of our current officers, our new officers, their families. This is a pretty special moment for a new officer. At this time, we do our swearing in ceremony. They take the oath of office. It's pretty important. It's not just words. It really does have an important meaning when it comes to law enforcement. They're going to talk about things like defending the Constitution of the United States. They're going to talk about faithfully performing your duties. They're going to talk about enforcing all ordinances and laws and why it's important to enforce all of them, and that the fact that we don't have the ability or the opportunity to pick and choose the ones that we get to enforce. And they're going to take that oath before all of you here today, as well as God. I'm going to read a couple biographies here of our 2 new officers to everyone, so we can kind of get to know them a little bit. The first one we'll talk about is Kirby Chesser. Kirby was born and raised in Gosport, Indiana. He's here tonight with his wife, Madison, and his brand new baby, Henry, I believe it is, right? Yeah. As well as his mother and father. Kirby graduated from the Tabernacle Christian High School. After that, he enlisted in the U.S. Air Force and studied aerospace medical services, air-based ground defense tactics, EMT, hazmat awareness operation, and served as security forces. He was awarded the Airman of the Quarter and expert marksmanship while serving in the Air Force. He currently still serves in the Indiana Air National Guard as a staff sergeant in the 181st Medical Group. Prior to joining the Avon Police Department, he served as a dual status technician on a federal level as well as a state level at the Indiana Air National Guard. He previously worked at the Owen County EMS as an EMT. He also grew up working on the farm and still helps occasionally with the harvest. He has an interest in canine and investigations. And when referring to his service in the military, he said, and this I got from the quote from our application when we asked him why they want to be a police officer. He said, "I understand the value of teamwork, discipline, and quick decision-making. My military training has prepared me to handle challenges with resilience and a strong sense of duty." That's probably one of the most mature responses I've seen in a long time in our applicants. Our second officer I'd like to introduce to you is Officer Devin Bussey. He was raised in Arizona, graduated high school from Wickenburg High School, Arizona. He's here tonight with his wife, Julia, his daughter, and I think he may even have some other family members here as well, just a few. After high school, he enlisted in the United States Army, where he was assigned to the Infantry 11 Bravo as a specialist E4. While serving in the Army, he received the Army Achievement Award for Outstanding Service, the Good Conduct Medal for Exemplary Conduct, the National Defense Medal for his service during wartime conflict, the Korea Defense Medal for serving in Korea, the Overseas Service Ribbon for deployment overseas, the Army Service Ribbon, and received his Driver and Mechanics Badge. In 2024, he received an honorable discharge from the United States Army. He has career aspirations of being a canine officer and to continue his education to help with his professional development. He stated in his written portion of the application, I want to be a police officer to be part of something bigger than myself. I also want to set an example for my daughter. If that doesn't tug at your heartstrings, I don't know what does right there. So, especially having raised 3 daughters myself. Next, I'm going to introduce to you our judge for this evening that's going to conduct the ceremony. That's Judge Rhett Stewart of Superior Court 2 in Hendricks County. Judge Stewart.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all coming out to see me tonight. Well, these are the jokes. We can sit there, we can laugh, but we've got a few more minutes of this. It's an honor to be asked to be out here to help tonight to swear these new officers in. Sounds like they already have had distinguished careers. They've already done some great things. Medical, biomedical, Air Force engineer. I don't remember what you said, but it was some long thing that he did, which sounds awesome. You're getting ready to embark on a new adventure. However, both of these, I assume these are the two young gentlemen back here. You're getting ready to embark on a new adventure. And I was a prosecutor for 11 years before I became a judge. And I learned a few things that I would impart to you. And I'm sure Chief has told you these things as well. But the most important job that you have is to come home at the end of every day, every shift. That's the most important job that you have. Come home safe, come home sound, so you can do your job the next day. There's nothing out there that's worth lying about, risking your reputation about. Those folks that I encounter on a daily basis, they'll still be there tomorrow. If you don't get them today, you'll get them tomorrow. Trust me when I say that. So no one's here to hear me talk tonight. No one's here to hear me say anything. They're here to see you all. So I'm going to keep it very brief and tell you every day, go out there, do your best. Take care of yourself. Take care of your brothers and sisters, your teammates. They'll have your back and you will have theirs. Like I said, do your best, tell the truth, and come home at the end of the day every day safe. And if you do that, you're going to be a success. And if you listen to this gentleman here, that gentleman there, do what they ask you to do, you cannot go wrong. We appreciate what you're doing for the town of Avon. When I grew up here, before you guys were born, that was a pay lake you could pay to fish on. And I was in the marching band here, and we marched marching band parades. We started about where the Walgreens is in Avon. It was a little hardware store. We marched right down US 36, right down the middle of it. They just closed the road. No one was on it anyway. And we ended up at what is now the middle school over there. It was tiny. It's a lot bigger now. And so you guys have some serious things that go on out here, but you can handle them. And again, with these folks, with their help, you're going to do great things. And we appreciate you keeping all of us safe and protected. With that, let's get them sworn in. My first one here, Kirby, come on up here. Yeah, come on up with him. Where are there? Somebody having taking pictures? Is there a particular way you want us to stand?
I would just stand out there in the middle.
Stand out here in the middle?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I want to make sure they get a good side.
Maybe have Kirby kind of turn around there a little bit. There you go, so they can get your picture. Mom, you can come on up here, Mom. You can.
Make sure she's always in front of you somewhere.
You don't want a picture of the judge. You want a picture of Kirby.
Are we ready?
Sure.
I, Kirby T. do solemnly swear that I will defend the Constitution of the United States of America, and the state of Indiana, and that I will faithfully perform my duties as a law enforcement officer of the Avon Police Department, impartially, fairly, and to the best of my ability. I affirm that I will enforce all ordinances and laws and follow all legal directives and policies prescribed by the Avon Police Department. So help me God. Devin, come on up. These are the great things I get to do in my job. These kind of things make me so happy. I get to do these kind of things. It's awesome. The people I deal with normally aren't so happy too. I, Devin Bussey, do solemnly swear that I will defend the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of Indiana. I will faithfully perform my duties as a law enforcement officer of the Avon Police Department impartially, fairly, and to the best of my ability. I affirm that I will enforce all ordinances and laws and follow all legal directives policies prescribed by the Avon Police Department. You got it. So help me God. Congratulations.
Kiss the bride.
We're going to take a 3-minute break, probably. Back to order and proceed with the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda, including the check register for August 14th, the approval of minutes for the July 23rd, as presented.
Second?
Thank you, Julie. Roll call, please.
Bill Holland,
4?
Jason Puckett,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Next is public comment. The public may comment on the agenda that, or any item on the agenda that is not part of a public hearing or on a specific matter within the council's jurisdiction. If you would like to come forward, please come to the podium. Make sure that the green light is on the microphone and state your name and address. No one coming forward, so we'll close the first of 2 public comment sessions and move forward with department updates.
Had to steal the chief's notes here since he's out there taking photographs and being famous with everybody. So first of all, thank you guys for sharing in that moment that we all just got to watch together. Obviously, it's a very important time in our profession, but it's also very meaningful to our employees. And so really glad to see everybody here tonight being supportive and just taking time to make that a special moment for them. These 2 individuals that were just sworn in, as well as another officer that's already been sworn in, are all scheduled to start at ILEA next month. So they'll all 3 be in the same academy class. They'll be doing their initial physical assessments to show up for their testing. They'll start figuring out who they're going to room with for the 16 weeks that they're at the academy. So this time with their family is pretty important. And they're going to spend a lot of time in there without their children and without their spouses and family around them. Excuse me. Some other notes we have, just some quick updates, congratulating some officers. We did have a lieutenant promotion process. It was a very competitive process. There's a written exam, interviews. There's also exams on literature about middle management levels and what was expected differently of a lieutenant versus a first line supervisor. So it's a very structured process. Our merit commission was scheduled to meet on Monday this week, but unfortunately one of our officers that was needing to be in attendance had an illness, so we had to postpone that for a little bit longer, but eventually we'll get to that. Very structured process governed by Indiana state law. The academy standards for training are one thing, but our internal standards that we have and what that sort of structure looks like is all merit-based. So you have to get the scores, you have to put in the work to get those opportunities. So we're really proud of our officers for doing that as well. We actually posted something on our social media about our drone program. This was something that we actually petitioned the Department of Homeland Security for in 2023. It took a very long time for FEMA to approve the devices. There was a lot of consternation about the makes, the models, the features that federal dollars could be used for. And so with the exception of one officer who was off with his family because they just had a little baby, everyone else went through the class. They've passed their tests. And that was just about a week and a half ago. And we've already had 2 deployments where they've been up surveilling incidents and also trying to look for a young boy that went missing as recent as last night up in the north side of Avon. So Officer Holian, who was actually one of the officers that was back here today, is completing his field training. He is actually, I take it back, that was not Holian that was back here, that was Jacob Moore. Holian has actually completed all of his field training. He's actually on his own now. He was academy certified. He came to us from another agency here in central Indiana as well. And so we're glad to have him. The other 3 individuals will be going to that academy here next month as well. Last thing on the list here, I'm going to abbreviate this because it makes a reference to me, but just wanted to thank everybody for being supportive of National Night Out. It was absolutely ridiculously hot. There was a lot of conversations about, is it safe to have the event? What steps do we take to make it a success? And the reality is the number of volunteers, not just the community volunteers, but staff here at Town Hall have jumped in to be helpful for our event. Planning committee is a part of that, but on event day, just seeing so many people showing up, whether they're helping make hot dogs and corn dogs or, just shuttling drinks and ice back to people. All of those individuals play a very important role. And that event's very near and dear to my heart. This is the 10th year we put on the actual event itself. And so there's a lot to be frustrated with when it comes to the hot weather and sort of the logistics of that. But our Avon High School staff was just amazing and being supportive of what our event entails. And so We kind of roll in there pretty deep at times, but they're just always so helpful for us. And they've told us they want that event to stay there for years to come. So we'll try to have some more conversations with them about 2026's event. There was some conversation about maybe doing it later in the year where it wasn't as hot. But some of those contingencies are all on school operations. And so we obviously have to be a good guest when we decide what that timeline looks like. So I just want to thank everybody for being supportive of that. I know that you start seeing vouchers and stuff coming in for funnel cake mix, and that doesn't really seem like police work. You start seeing a lot of random things that take place, but just the number of community sponsors and even large companies that sponsor our event, it's upwards of $30,000 worth of donations and product and in kind. And also several businesses here in town that support that, donating gift certificates for door prizes and things like that. So it really is a lot of work. I'm very thankful for everybody that supports that as well. So the chief will be happy to know when he comes back in, he doesn't have to do the updates. So I'll skip the one little shout out he had for somebody else. So thank you guys. Happy to answer any questions if you have them.
I have a quick question
Yes,
about
sir.
the salary comparison.
Yes, sir.
Have you guys all worked out what you're asking for 26?
Yes, so our Form 1s were due internally. We had a deadline. Ryan had set that deadline for last Friday. We have submitted everything into that Form 1. We're very mindful of, I call it the unknown impact of the legislative actions that are taking place. So over the course of the next 5 to 6 weeks, we'll probably get some harder numbers when it comes from insurance estimates and whatnot. There is an increase to our base rate so we can remain competitive to try to get additional qualified applicants. In terms of the study that you see there, I'd probably be better for us to talk one-on-one about any specific question that you'd have. But we do have an increase scheduled to try to stay where we need to be at and keep good applicants coming our way.
I do have some individual questions, so if you can set aside some time, I'd appreciate it.
Be happy to do so. All right, thank you, guys. I'll let someone do these there for you.
I appreciate
Thank
that. Put a check, was there?
Okay.
Good evening, John Taylor, Economic Development. People always say, what are you working on? And I never tell anybody, so I'm going to tell you tonight. Abbott Labs is going to go into the smaller of the two buildings across from Rise. There's a auto parts distributor going into half of the building up in Avon Landing. They'll have about 150 employees. Lakeside Book Company is going to take up 740,000 square feet with a 1 million square foot building down on 100 South. They'll have 40 full-time employees, 150 to 200 part-time employees. Next year, go to 100 employees and 250 part-time employees. The part-time employees are 6 months a year because they're a book distributor. They have certain times of the year that they do a lot of stuff, and a lot of time of year they don't do anything. Yesterday, I had a call about another 450 to 500,000 square foot distribution center. We have a meeting with them next week. There's still a 200,000 square foot data center looking at Avon Landing. And we've already checked. There's plenty of electricity. Don't get scared. We're going to turn your electric off at home. That's not going to happen. Project Health, that's the big project with 1,000 jobs. They're going to come down either September or October. They purchased a new company back in March, and they've been trying to integrate that into their company. And they had a discussion with Brian a couple weeks ago, and I think they're going to be in sometime September or October. And if you haven't been past, it's not open yet, but if you haven't been past the Sephora building, I would recommend you take a drive. Just drive by it. It's a gorgeous building. They will be looking to start hiring people in October to be open first of the year. They were planning to hire 400 people. And the one thing I really liked about this company was they said they would hire every handicapped person we could bring them, because in their other distribution centers, they've learned how to work with people with disabilities, to work shifts out for them, to do everything they can to take care of them. I think that's great for our community, and especially since we have some facilities in town where handicapped people live, and maybe we can do something where we get some of those people to work even part-time to give themselves a little more self-esteem. So still a lot going on. Ryan and I have talked, and December 31st will be it for me. We may be doing some other stuff with Ryan, but I hope that we can get some of these projects done by then. If not, I promise to come back and finish them. I won't let them fall by the wayside. We're talking about almost $2 billion of investment if we were able to get all of these companies. And with the kind of jobs we're talking about and the wages on these jobs, they're just going to be real significant for Avon for many years to come. So, you might have a question, I'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, go pack.
Good evening, Shelby Pride, Parks and Recreation Director. I want to thank you guys. As the council a few months ago, if you remember, I came to you and asked to spend some money to buy a new piece of equipment for us. We already had the piece of equipment, but we needed a new one. We received that. It's amazing. Thank you guys again for allowing us to purchase that. As you know, Tuesdays are our farmers market, and my event staff has been working hard this summer to bring more community to the market. And so they've had we had a strawberry shortcake festival, we had a berry festival. This past Tuesday, I was able to help them do a corn roast. And the best part about it was truly us kind of giving back to these vendors. The corn that we purchased that we gave out, we purchased from one of our vendors. And then another one of our vendors actually roasted the corn for us. And then in order to receive a free ear of corn dipped in butter, you should have seen this thing, they had to purchase something from one of the vendors, and they received a ticket and they could come. So it was just one big spinning wheel of us helping each other out, and it was awesome. So I want to thank my staff for coming up with that, and I hope they do more things like that. That's so cool. Fall and winter events are coming up. We have Dirtworks, which is our kids event. Well, parents can come too, but it's kind of like a touch-a-truck, but we have a giant pile of dirt that kids can play in. We have a lot of equipment that we put here in the park, and they can come play with that. We also give out dirt pudding cups. Harvest time hay rides will be in October. Date night dancing will also be in October out here on the back patio. Painting in the parks. That's kind of an ongoing thing that the event staff has tried to, it's a new thing that we've tried this year. Kite flying day, I think that one's in September. The Christmas tree lighting, and then we are also adding a Santa's workshop the weekend after the Christmas tree lighting. So everything will kind of tie in together at the end of the year. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Lambie, representing the Planning Department. The draft of our new comprehensive plan was publicly unveiled with a presentation before the Plan Commission on July 14th. That's available for review at planavon.gov, and that will be back before the Commission for consideration on August 25th. If all goes well, it could be before this body in September. Linda and I are still working on revisions to the Unified Development Ordinance. We've been working on that for a while where we have extra time. We've looked at different ways of doing that, whether we could do a piece here and a piece there, but the more we look at it, the more we see that parts are, one chapter is related to another chapter. So if we make a change to chapter 3, we have to look at how that affects the related regulations in chapter 5 or 7. So we've determined that it'd be best to go through the entire thing and try to present all appropriate revisions at one time. So we're still hopeful that we'll be able to get that before the Planning Commission in the next few months. And then finally, I know Linda has just started a review of the filing fees we charge for land use petitions, zoning map amendments, plats, DPRs, and BZA requests as well, to make sure that our fees are both commensurate with the amount of time and effort that staff puts in reviewing and administering those processes, and also just making sure that they're also all on par with what other communities in the area are charging as well. And so hopefully we'll have something on that in the coming months. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Steve Moore, Public Works Director. Hope you've seen our construction crews around town. We're spending almost $2.5 million to redo streets and sidewalks and handicap ramps around town, 18 locations. Right now working on 100 North and Avon Ave, getting ready to start paving that soon. Doing the concrete first, then we'll come back and do the paving. Working on a 625 right now as well, and they're just going to work their way around to the 18 locations throughout this month and part of next. 100 North and Raceway Roundabout, we're working on utility relocation. Did some clearing out there yesterday, and I guess Center Point's going to be out there on Monday relocating their line, so making progress there. 900 Angelina Way Roundabout, it's a little further along. Utility relocation is well into it. Duke is about done. They're supposed to finish tomorrow with their relocation. Then the other two utilities that are hanging on their old poles will relocate to the new poles, get those out of the way, and then we can do our underground work there. Our underground work started yesterday on the west side of 900. We haven't closed the road yet. We're trying to get as much done before we close the road as possible to have as little impact as possible on traffic, but it's going well as well. Said well twice. The other project, I don't know if everybody realizes, but there's a companion project to our roundabout there. It's a new Ace Hardware's coming in Harvest Landing, and they're doing road improvements on 900. And so those two projects will meet up to each other. And we just had the Village Townhomes. So you're gonna have new pavement from 36 all the way on up to where our town limit ends, just north of Harvest Landing. So that's good stuff. Dan Jones doing some utility relocation there starting next week as well. Center Point, again, we'll be doing some crossing, trying to push all the utilities to get relocated. A little bit of a challenge, but they're working on that as well. Then just the standard stuff. We had potholes patched, did about 2 tons of pothole patching. MS4 inspections, Drew and Eli did about 107 inspections. I'm doing this without my glasses, by the way. My arms weren't long enough. Betsy collected $4,000 in permit fees for 15 permits. And she got a big whopping $177 in reimbursements from insurance. Actually, it wasn't from insurance. It was from a self-pay for someone whose kid knocked down a traffic sign. But they paid for it. Keaton and Eli conducted 22 right-of-way inspections, and Eli installed 28 signs. So we're just rolling around. Any questions about what we're doing? Thanks.
Well, where do I start? No. You guys should have an email today with all your reports we just closed July. So you should be up to date on receiving reports from me through July, the end of July. We have just completed 3 different audits with the State Board of Accounts. We'll be closing those officially next week. So we should be getting official reports soon. We did a food and beverage audit, an RDA audit, and a town audit all at the same time, starting in May, and we just finished. So that is what I have been busy doing. And thank you to Ryan for a lot of his help when I needed to take a couple days off at the end of July. I redirected them to him to pull items for me. So I appreciate Ryan and all his help while I was gone those couple days. But other than that, we are doing very well. We're sitting pretty, and I think we will all be pleasantly happy with the report that will come out.
Moving on, council comment and liaison reports.
I don't have anything that Ryan hasn't already covered in his email, so thank you, Ryan.
I have nothing.
Nothing for me.
Nothing.
Moving on to new business, public hearing for the indoor sports lease. Ryan or Shelby?
I'll just do a quick introduction. All you have to do is open the public hearing, but in order for us to enter into a lease for our sports, you guys do have to have a public hearing. It was advertised in the paper, so you just need to open up the public hearing and close it after you've gotten comments.
Okay, with that said, we are going to go ahead and open up our public hearing for the indoor sports lease. Anyone would like to come forward? No one coming forward, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Show that closed at 7:37 PM. Next is authorization of purchase and financing of police vehicles. Brian?
Thank you. Every time we type up a memo, my goal is to keep it at one page. So there's a little bit of information crammed in there. But in terms of the explanation, we generally purchase about 5 or 6 vehicles a year. They're paid for out of CCD, and we always finance them. There is a vehicle schedule payment that we work with Ryan and Julie, where we finance the vehicles for our 3-year purchase. And so a portion of this request is to give the authorization to our clerk treasurer to seek financing in the amount listed there in your memo from the CCD. Again, that will be financed over a 3-year period through one of our local banks here that we get competitive interest rates and bids from what I understand. In addition to that, this proposal is a little bit unique in that we're requesting also to purchase 3 additional vehicles as a result of surplus revenue from our vacancies. So beginning January 1 of this year, we had 6 vacancies. To date, you guys just swore in number 3 and 4 from that hiring process, which is now exhausted. So those 4 spots were not filled throughout the calendar year, and we still have 2 spots that have not been filled yet. And so when we go back and we compute salaries, pensions, health insurance, computations, and whatnot, there's about a $430,000 surplus in our budget that we have had the ability to use for capital expenses, try to mitigate some debt if we can. Julie does a great job of paying attention to the payment schedules and offering opportunities to pay off loans early. And it's always kind of in our best interest to do that when we can. So you have the numbers there for each one of the vehicles that we have. So essentially, it's kind of a breakdown of 2 different things. I won't speak to whether or not it can be in one motion or not, but just to clarify, you have one invoice that has 3 vehicles. That would be for the cash purchase and requesting authorization for the clerk treasurer to fund the purchase of those out of the general fund, which is the fund in which our surplus remains. And then the other 5 to be financed through payments with our previous payments from previously purchased vehicles through the CCD and authorizing her to seek financing for that. These vehicles are the same specs that we've ordered in the last several years as we're trying to maintain a higher level of our fleet. A lot of our officers are coming in to the agency. They're always initially assigned an older vehicle. We're trying our best to stay ahead of that curve and make sure they have the top-notch equipment that they can be funded with. So happy to answer any questions or clarifications that you might have.
You usually have a spreadsheet, a vehicle spreadsheet that lists all your vehicles and when we acquired them and when the plan sunset is on those.
So there'd be kind of 2 spreadsheets in which would exist. One would be from the vehicle payment schedule that Julie and Ryan maintain from more the financial component. We do have those documents internal. Dave Marguson, our Deputy Chief of Enforcement, does a good job of keeping all that documentation squared away and monitoring mileage, paying attention to the maintenance bills and the fees that are associated with those vehicles. And so we don't always find ourselves replacing vehicles simply because they had more miles on them. Some might be because they're an older model. We may have a couple of vehicles that just seem to be a problem for us financially for one reason or another. So he makes those determinations, and it's good sound judgment in doing so that we track all of that.
So by purchasing 3 extra this year, do you think that will then defer acquiring 3 next year? Or
I would love to tell you no, but I don't think that's the case. I think for us, one of the things that we've been very mindful about is how we financially move forward when we have new officers come on board. And we made a kind of a different approach to the vehicles years ago when we had to focus putting a lot of our revenue out of general fund and filling police officer vacancies. So in a lot of ways, our fleet is older than what we would like for it to be. So trying to get what I say ahead of the curve is really just kind of keeping us probably where we should have been at for a while. So we average about 5 or 6 vehicles a year, and we're simply just trying to take advantage of some surplus, kind of knock down some capital expenses, which is what we did last year as well. We had a lot of capital expenses for equipment, but not necessarily vehicles. But secret to that was there wasn't vehicles that we can get our hands on. So it's a different situation, similar circumstances with our surplus though.
Any other discussion or questions? If not, we'll take a motion.
Did we need 2 separate motions, one for each invoice?
You can do it either way.
Okay.
You can do it together or something.
I'll make a motion that we approve the authorization to purchase and finance the police vehicles for both invoices, which I believe, check my math, a total of $415,980 for Julie to pay out.
Second.
Do we need to include the directive to have clerk treasurer issue a check for $156,480?
And to seek financing?
Seek the financing to these.
So I need to amend that.
If you mind amending to authorize the cash payment of 56 and
Okay.
authorize the financing of the rest.
And for Julie to authorize the cash payment of $156,480 and seek financing for the additional $259,500.
Second.
Thank you. Julie, roll call, please.
Robert Pope,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Bill Holland.
4.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate you.
Resolution 2025-21, executing the lease for the indoor sports facility.
Yes, you have taken the last step preliminary to considering the approval of the lease for the indoor parks facility. You conducted your public hearing tonight. You've published throughout your process. And so this resolution approves the lease as submitted for 8109 Kingston Street. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or discussion? Not, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2025-21 for the lease for the indoor sports facility as presented.
Second.
Julie, roll call, please.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Bill Holland,
4.
Don Loudon.
4. Next is Resolution 2025-22, accepting the donation of right-of-way.
This resolution approves a proposed donation of real estate to the town. This right-of-way is being offered to the town. Of course, the town would like to accept it. You must approve any such acceptance of a donation. You can see the deed and the legal description are attached along with the parcel maps to give you the location for this. And so the resolution would provide the final approval that would be needed for the acceptance.
Where is this actually located?
This is actually, so it's just up north of the middle school. So Aspen Trace is the Pulte development that's just north of Sycamore Elementary. And so there's a piece of right-of-way right there. You'll notice right-of-way was dedicated from middle school. Aspen Trace will dedicate right-of-way, but there was this one gap. And so that's the right-of-way that the property owner is going to donate, but Pulte has worked out an agreement with them to do that. And so it's just a donation to us. They're cutting out the third party.
Any questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I move we adopt resolution 2025-22, accepting donation of right-of-way Jeffreyon as presented.
Second.
Julie, roll call, please.
Don Loudon,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Bill Holland.
4.
Next, Resolution 2025-23, authorizing change of the official town logo.
Resolution would make official the changing of your brand logos, as you have discussed previously and vetted. So this would make that official. Your town seal and certain logos are in the town code. So we would follow this up with an ordinance to make this change also, but this would allow the use of it to move forward even ahead of that codification change. So in the interest of moving that along, this resolution takes care of that and makes the adoption of these logos official.
Any questions or discussion?
Do we know what the cost is going to be to change the logo? Branding?
Oh, good question, Greg. Shelby, do you remember that was part of their proposal was the analysis. Most of the cost of the change will all be in our welcome Avon signs. And I want to say it was about $60,000 for those signs. I think the total change is probably under about 80.
That includes all of our vehicle logos and
Correct. Yeah. Well, we'll taper them out of service, so we won't necessarily change all of them immediately. Like we just bought new vehicles and we've held off marking those so that we would just mark them. But actually, our marking of vehicles is pretty cheap. It only costs about $200 a vehicle. It's actually pretty inexpensive.
Betsy did already look this up and emailed us this morning. It's about $1,800 to do all of the vehicles in our fleet. The company will come here and we can use the maintenance barn. So we don't even have to take vehicles off the property to have them rebadged.
any other questions or comments?
We're starting the budget process. Do we have any concerns with a decrease in revenue?
We do not, no.
We're going to use rainy day fund.
Julie wanted me to let you know, we'll use a rainy day fund.
Julie?
How much did you say for signage?
About $60,000, I think, is our estimate for the signage. Now, we're going to be able to, like, if you look at your artwork in there, it's basically just going to be a face change. We'll be able to reuse our posts and everything. So we'll just change the logo on that face. And we have, I think, 13 of them. So that will be the majority of the expense. The rest of the stuff is relatively inexpensive. Knowing that I had sent an email to all the staff to not be ordering anything with expectation of this to come along. So we burned through our Town of Avon stuff at National Night Out. We didn't order new stuff. So we will need to be purchasing some new stuff with our logos. Business cards is probably the business cards, shirts, attire, and the trucks and the signs are where the expenses for the logo change.
Letterhead.
We don't use a lot of letterhead. We've gone digital with our letterhead. So like we've already changed that and we're ready to go. And we just use our color printers now. We don't really buy fancy letterhead anymore. We don't send a lot of direct letters. We'll get a new sign like that, but those things are like $30. Like most things are relatively inexpensive for the logo change.
Okay. We will entertain a motion if someone would like to make one.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2025-23, authorizing the change of the official town logo as presented.
A second.
Okay, Julie, roll call, please.
Bill Holland,
4.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Don Loudon.
4. Next is introduction of ordinance 2025-25, implementing a municipal wheel tax and surtax. Again, this is an introduction.
Yes, 2025 would impose 2 new local tax rates. For the first time, municipalities can adopt a wheel tax and a motor vehicle excise surtax. The ordinance does those 2 things, establishes a wheel tax at $40 per vehicle and a surtax at $25 a vehicle. It also would create a wheel tax fund and a surtax fund where the funds received from the Bureau of Motor Vehicles would be deposited. The statute restricts the use of these funds. Essentially, these funds are used for road construction and repair, maintenance, and the ordinance outlines those substantial elements that are required. We have submitted the proposed ordinance to the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, which has approved this model ordinance. This is introduction only. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
It indicates here no more than $40 and no more than $25. Those are the maximums. Do we have to indicate what we're going to charge them or implement?
Yes, you have to adopt the rate. In the ordinance, you must adopt the rate. So whatever the rate is, that is the maximum allowed by the statute. You have to state the rate in this. In addition to that, in order for the rate to be implemented and started to be collected on January 1, you must take action before September 1st of this year. Otherwise, there will be a delay. But yes, you must state the exact rate. The certified ordinance is delivered to the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, and that's how they know what to collect.
So are we proposing $40 on the excise surtax and $25 on the wheel tax?
It's the opposite. It's $40 for the wheel tax, which is for large trucks, semi-trailers, trailers, buses, recreation vehicles. $25 for passenger vehicles, small trucks, as outlined in the ordinance. I get the two confused. I have to really try to keep it separated, but the wheel tax is larger vehicles. Surtax is primarily passenger cars and light trucks and motorcycles. So that helps keep them straight. Those amounts are paid at the time you register your motor vehicle, which start in 2026 under the ordinance.
And again, as we discussed in the work session just prior to this meeting, these changes are coming before us because of the change in the state legislative laws. And this would be required for us to be able to get community crossing grants moving forward.
Correct. The community crossing matching grant, which is a big part, which has played a big part in your road improvements, is, entities may not be eligible unless they have a wheel and surtax. In the same vein, there is a new program that will assist local governments with road and bridge projects and some other types of projects. And the new state law says that you aren't eligible for them unless you have a wheel and surtax. It's part of the overall legislative strategy to shift or to really shift more of the obligation for road funding to local governments. So it's been in the process 23 and 24, and we're seeing it come into fruition here. The state legislature has said verbatim, we're going to give you the tools, you local governments, to raise road money on your own. If you don't do it, you're not going to get the money from us. So there's a linkage there. And so, yes, I think that you're almost being forced to adopt this. This is a user tax. I mean, this is a user tax. So this is, you're not required to register, buy a car and register it and drive a car. You can use other forms of transportation. But if you do, then you pay a user tax when you register your vehicle. So this is all municipalities are having to face the same issue this year.
Do we know what the county's doing?
I'm sorry?
Do we know what the county's doing? It's us and the county. It's a combination of the two.
The county has long had a wheel tax and excise tax, and they were the only government that had one until these changes were made. So now this year, it will be all the towns in Hendricks County who will be taking their action like this.
Yeah, but theoretically, this could be for the consumer $75, $50 for the county and $25 for the town.
That's correct. Well, that's correct on the surtax.
Correct.
And the wheel tax, it's a little higher. But yes, your tax will be added to the county tax. But the county tax rates are higher.
I may add as well that I forgot to mention this at the, when we were discussing this in the work session, but there was some legislation that also changed responsibility for bridge and culvert maintenance. So we haven't had a chance to talk about that, but everything under 20 foot is now the responsibility of the town. So Steve and his staff have been working with the county. So really bridges will stay with the county, but anything below that, which is typically a culvert or a box structure, the responsibility for the maintenance of all of those will now be our responsibility too. So we've received the inventory for that. We're looking it over. We're getting it into our inventory for our storm system for us to start inspecting. The county hadn't done an inspection from, I think 2020 was the last time they did an inspection. So you may see some things where we're going to need to do some inspections on those culverts. Again, some of this is good. This is a little bit of a shift. It gives us some ability to control our own fate and fund some of our own projects. But we also at this time don't have a funding source for some of those things. So again, wheel tax could be used for some of those things. We could also, we'll probably have to lean on our stormwater utility to help pay for some of those kind of projects as well as culverts need to be widened or whatever. So I'll mention that as well as another thing coming down that's going to be our responsibility to take care of.
So when we take over drainage, when we annex in areas from out in the county, and the county then provides us some funds that went with that, do they have funds set aside for these culverts?
No, not for that. You're talking about like the legal drains. And we do have an agreement with the county that when we annex something, if they're legal drains, they'll release whatever funds are in those. But I think that situation for counties is different. They don't necessarily have a pot of money sitting there. They do have the Cume Bridge Fund or Major Bridge Fund, but those are supposed to be for bridges bigger than 20 feet. So, I don't think they won't give us any of that money. And the legislation didn't require them to give any of it to us.
Do they have a capital improvement plan like we do that kind of identifies future projects that need to be addressed? And are any of those culverts on that plan?
Well, that's what we just got the plan from the county today, I think, or maybe yesterday. Okay, I was gonna say we haven't had a chance to look over it and see what they've done. I know they have some replacement program. It's based on age and condition. Bridges are a little different. They're required to do annual bridge inspections. And so when they do their bridge inspections, they prioritize bridges based on their condition and their priority. So they have at least something. I don't know how good it is or if it's as substantial as like what we do with our capital improvement plan, but those will be things every year we revisit our capital improvement plan. So once we've had a chance to look through that, if we need to do that, we'll reprioritize and we'll add those things to our capital improvement plan.
Can we apply for funds through the MPO then?
The MPO won't fund just like drainage projects.
Say if we're doing a road improvement.
If we're doing a road and we're replacing a culvert as part of that, yeah, we could include that as part of our funding and replace it. And so that there've been some bridges that we have wanted the county to look at widening and doing something different with, and we haven't been able to get them to do that. And so in those cases, I think that would be helpful to us. So to maybe expedite some of those things, like for example, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if Steve will correct me, but like the culvert right by the library, just north of the library between Stratford, it's super narrow, it's really tight. I think that's actually going to be our responsibility now. Well, we've been asking the county forever to do something to make that wider and more safe. And again, whether the county didn't have funds or they were prioritizing other projects, that's never gotten done. So some of those things may be good that we now have the control of and we can find a way to try to fix and improve.
Even though that's a state road.
It's not a state road anymore. Remember, they relinquished it. So Avon Avenue is our road. So.
Okay.
Avon Avenue, not 267.
All right. So we'll consider ordinance 2025-25 introduced and move on to ordinance 2025-26, amending the employee handbook for the SEA 409.
Yes, this spring, the state legislature enacted Senate Enrolled 409, which is designed to encourage parental involvement in educational conferences at school. This new law, which is mandatory for all employers in the state of Indiana, requires you to allow any absence for parents attending school conferences to be excused as a matter of law and a matter of your policy. So this ordinance would amend your employee handbook, specifically 6.13, in order to articulate that these absences for school attendance, conferences, or a case conference committee are excused. And then some specifics, of course, are included, that the period of absence is really just a time to get to and from the conference and attend the conference. Reasonable notice must be given to the employer, and so on. This absence is unpaid. The only purpose of this is to try to eliminate barriers that are perceived to prevent parents from participating in the educational process. These conferences usually involve individual education plans or school attendance problems. And so they're both very key and important issues in the world of education. And so this would merely amend your employee handbook to comply with the new law. Be happy to answer you. This is introduction only.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions for Dan? If not, would someone like to make a motion? Or, no, that ordinance isn't an introduction, is it? Oh, it is? It's just not marked as one.
Your agenda, it's just, yeah,
Okay.
wrapped around. It is introduction.
Okay. Next is legal counsel report.
Nothing tonight further. Thank you.
The second of two public comment sessions. If you would like to come forward and address council, please state your name and your address. No one coming forward, so we'll close the second of the two public comments and move on to council comment. No one? Council calendar, Ryan.
I do have a couple of things. Bill mentioned earlier my weekly update that I sent you guys. I mentioned that the town has received an offer to acquire some property from us. And so I was wondering if we already have a work session scheduled on the 28th at 5:30 PM. I was wondering if you guys may be able to come at 5 PM for an executive session so we can get guidance from you on how you'd like us to move forward with that right-of-way acquisition offer. Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Should work for me.
Okay, excellent. So we will post an executive session 5 PM. We'll send out a meeting invite. Reminder, we do have a work session at 5:30 PM. Make sure you eat something hearty because Greg Garitas is going to be here to talk about the 2026 budget, mostly the sustainability analysis. He's going to walk you through the sustainability analysis. And then he'll talk about the bigger budget picture in the actual council meeting. And then council meeting August 28th at 7 PM. And my last thing is today is a very important day. It is Dawn's birthday. So I was wondering if
No one's
everyone would
supposed to
sing
know
happy
that.
birthday to Dawn with me for her
No.
birthday.
No.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dawn. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Dawn.
Thanks. Yes. I leave it off Facebook even, so no one knows that. Oh,
Will Garitas have a handout prior to the work session for us to review what he's going to go over?
Yeah, I'll talk to him. The sustainability analysis is about 146 pages, so I will try to maybe get that into your hands in advance. They were still making some modifications. Things are changing all the time. As Brian mentioned, we did get our Form 1s all turned in, so we'll try to get something. If nothing else, it'll be with your packet If not printed out, if you show up, I'll have a printed out copy here probably for you so you can review it as Greg's going through it.
And everyone needs to leave their computer.
Yes, please, if everyone could please leave your tablets, we would like to do our updates on those.
Okay, meeting adjourned.